The feeling that you and every other living organism is being driven by some molecules deep in every cell is fundamentally unsettling and seems to remove agency from you as an acting, thinking being in the world.
It does, which is why it's not a scientific stance. This is what you get when you have science without philosophy. You continue an ancient mystical tradition of degrading man.
Yeah, it's pretty grim, but whether or not you agree with the fact that we might be controlled by our genes and we're simply their flesh robots,
right?
I think it's kind of unreasonable and unrealistic to go through life thinking that every decision is governed by this. It doesn't really do you any good because we perceive the world as individuals.
So the idea they're discussing there is the idea that we are fully governed by our genes, and that in a world where you're governed fully by your genes, there's no room for such things as free will or agency or independent thought. One phrase they use to describe this is flesh robot, I think they say. Now here's why I don't think we are all flesh robots. For all our thoughts to have originated ultimately in our genes, it would mean that evolution must have prepared us for everything that we do and say and think every day. So every sentence that I'm saying right now must, at the end of the chain of the causality, be traceable back to the genes. The problem with this view is that genes evolutionarily have no idea, quote unquote, like they're not thinking beings, right? But they would have had no ability to anticipate things like cars or computers or smartphones or Instagram or any of that stuff. So to think that our genes govern our use of those products and our ability to create these products and to think new thoughts, it just doesn't work. Contrast this to animals, where it does make sense that they are so-called flesh robots, because they never really do anything that you couldn't explain just through the use of knowledge that is inborn in their genes. Conversely, when I've done many videos about this, when you take animals out of the context for which they evolved, then the bugs in those programs, in their flesh robot programming, become very obvious. But you can't really do something like that with human beings. There is something different about the information processing that happens in our brains that distinguishes us from all the other life on Earth. And this difference, although we don't quite know what it is yet, we do know that this is where free will originates. I've conjectured in the past that what happened is, in our evolutionary past, there was an idea in our minds that started to replicate, and this kicked off an evolution of ideas in our minds. And so now we don't just have biological evolution of genes happening and then the mindless execution of those genes during an organism's lifetime. We also have the evolution of ideas happening in our minds during our lifetime. And that is, again, what gives us the ability to go beyond our genes. So there's no need to lie to ourselves about, not really being creative or having free will. No, we do have those things. And that's why they're able to have that conversation. And that's why I'm able to make this video in the first place.